Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to the Course Creator Community Podcast. I am super excited because we've got a very special guest on the line this week, all the way from Ohio. I don't know where it is. I don't know how to spell it, but I know it's nowhere near Sydney, Australia. So I'm super excited to have her on. And I think she's definitely the coolest person I know in the whole of Ohio. So we're in for a treat there, and that's not just because she's the only person I know in Ohio. She's pretty cool. A little bit about this person. She wears a few different hats, but in a nutshell, she's an online business coach. So she helps entrepreneurs write content that attracts paying clients. She's a Facebook group admin. She's got a really cool Facebook group that I recommend everybody should join, which is facebook.com/groups/starting an online business. I'll put that link down in the show notes. She's also a course creator. She's got an online course all about creating content in 30 days in less than 30 minutes. I'll put that link down in the show notes as well. And that is what we're going to speak about today. But anyways, without further ado, let me introduce all the way from Ohio, the one and only Ms. Rachel Monnin. Rachel, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks for asking.
Awesome to hear. Rachel, I like to start my podcast off with a quote or mantra that inspires you or fires you up. Have you got one you could use for us?
I do. So mine is a little bit off the wall. My quote is the only way to get through it is to get through it. And it's actually a quote from the Netflix show New Girl.
Okay. So, couple questions there. New Girl, I've never heard. I just watched New Girl, probably not the type of Netflix series for me. But tell me a little bit about that. What's that series about?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's actually about this young girl who is, recently got her job and, is kind of getting started with her life, and she's looking for a place to live. And she actually moves in with these two guys. And so all three of them are living in this apartment, and it's just like crazy adventures and, the weird things that happen to them. So there's this one episode where, the girl says the only way to get through it is to get through it. And, normally I don't take life advice from Netflix TV shows, but I grabbed a sticky note and wrote that down. I was like, oh my gosh, to me, that was just really profound. And so what I did is I still have this sticky note and I attach it to my calendar. So every time I pull off a new month of my calendar, I put the sticky note back on the new month. And that is, that is my quote.
Love it. I love the quote. I love the way you found it because I'm a huge Netflix watcher myself. I just finished The One. Have you seen The One?
I have not, but I've heard good things about it.
It's amazing. I did it in a weekend. That's how good
Oh,
it
nice.
is. Listeners, after you've purchased Rachel's course and listened to this podcast, the next thing to watch is the one on Netflix. Good show. So now you wear a few different hats, Rachel. I know today we're going to talk mainly about the creating the content and the online course that you've got, but just give us a bit of an overview. What is it you do in the space?
Absolutely. So I actually wear more hats than you know. So in my 9 to 5 job, I am a marketing manager for a small firm. And then in my business, I focus a lot on content and specifically on batching content.
Mm.
So I really love the process of being able to create a lot of content in a short amount of time. So I, wear the hat of my 9 to 5 job. I wear the hat of being a course creator, like you talked about. And then, of course, helping entrepreneurs with their content strategy.
Love it. Okay. Well, let's dive straight into the content because a bit of background for most people listening to this. And I mean, most people in the world, we know social media is the ticket these days. How else, especially if you've got an online business, how else are you going to promote your online business if it's not social media? I don't think the yellow pages exist. I don't think, the letterbox drops exist. With COVID, you can't go knocking on doors and find people. Social media is the ticket. And I think everybody knows that. Everyone listening to this anyway, what they're probably thinking though is, I've got all these things I got to do, I've got to look after my family. I've got a job. I've got to teach the course. I've got to create the course. Where the hell am I going to get time to actually post on social media? So I'm curious to hear your strategies, Rachel. Obviously, the best thing we can do is purchase your course, how to come up with 30 days of content. 30 days of content in 30 minutes. We'll put the link in the show notes. But I'm going to hand it over to you here. How do we do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's really a method that I created. So, I wanted a way. Well, when I first started my business, I was really struggling with just how do they continually show up on social media? Because
Mm,
what I was doing is I would, show up on social media like every day for a solid 2 weeks, and then I would get burnt out and stop showing up on social media. And I really call that the seesaw effect, where
yeah.
it's like this very up and down. So I, was like searching for a method, and I really didn't find one that really I connected with or that worked or that really, was kind of robust. So I really just made my own method. And it's really the process of, like first putting together your content pillars. So I do 6 content pillars, and
Mm,
those are basically the themes within your business. For anyone who's not familiar with the term content pillars, I like to look of it as you have like your central business theme, and then
mm.
kind of branching off that, you have these 6 content pillars, and those are all the minor themes in your business that relate back to the central theme of what your business actually is about.
Love it. Let's spend a minute there. That's something I don't do enough of myself. I'm a random guy, you know. I just I read a chapter in a book. Ah, let me share something I learned there. But I listened to a podcast. What's her name? Is it Jenna Kutcher? Do you know who that is?
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely.
She uses a similar Instagram. I don't think she has six. I think she has three or something.
Okay.
But that's where I heard it first. And now that you've refreshed my mind, I'm like, it's a good idea. I think she mentioned three. Hers were like, I can't remember. I think one was family. You know, one was like, hey, I'm a big family person. So, 1 in 3 Instagram posts is going to be something about my family. One is going to be, I don't know, maybe I can't even remember. Maybe you can throw us off some ideas. Are those six different for everyone? Or do you have, hey, here are the 6 things every business should have? What can you tell us there, Rachel?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I do not believe that there are 6 content pillars that every single person should have. They should
Mm,
be unique to your business,
yeah.
but I think there's definitely going to be overlap. So like you said, Jenna Kutcher, she does family, and a lot of entrepreneurs that, are married and have their own children. Family is a solid staple for their
Mhm.
content. For me, behind the scenes is a solid staple for my content pillar. So I really do recommend that almost everyone should have behind the scenes as one of their content pillars. But from there, it depends on your industry.
Mm. What are some throw us out some common ones or some good suggestions? And if you want an example, oh no, okay, let's use me for example. No, let's use fitness as an example. Let's say someone's a fitness person. What are some things they could post that I guess is fitness or isn't fitness?
Yeah, absolutely. So if we take a fitness example, obviously one of them could be behind the scenes of like getting their business together.
Mm,
One content pillar could be weight loss, for example.
mm,
One could be like health, diet related, like food. That would be another.
mm,
One could be like focusing on the types of exercises. So right there, that's 4 content pillars,
mm.
and really they all relate to being a fitness trainer.
Love it. Now, question with here. And I guess this is a personal choice as well, right? Where it's like, okay, should one always be non-business based? Like, let's say you are in the fitness space. Should one be just completely non-fitness, whether it's family, whether it's partner, whether it's what you watched on Netflix or when what you went up to on the weekend, or is that just a personal choice on what you should, whether you include personal stuff or not?
Yeah, that is actually a really great question. And I do recommend that you do include a personal one,
Mm,
because, it all goes back to we want to buy from people. We don't just want to buy from a business or a platform. So sharing, that personal side of yourself really does help us get to know you a little bit better. So for example, I follow someone on Instagram, and she shares a lot of pictures of her dog, and it's an
mm.
adorable corgi. And it really, you kind of you have like the business side of things, you have when she promotes, then you get a cute picture of her corgi, and it's just fun, and it makes you feel like you know the person a little bit better.
And it also shows a bit of similarity, right? Like let's say, for example, that I'm not a dog person, right? So that probably wouldn't attract me, But let's say someone is a dog person, that might just be that little bit to get them over. As silly as it sounds, if it's the difference between, okay, here's Jono that just posts all business stuff, but here's Rachel that posts business stuff and one of her dog every 6 weeks. I love dogs as well. She's really good with her dog. Look how good she takes care of her dog. How bad of a person can she be if she looks after her dog that much? I'm going to do her program there. As silly as it sounds, like people are attracted to other people that are like them, and whether it's, and even if it's not the dog, if it's the mum example, if it's the family example, it just helps relate. So I love that you've mentioned that there. So that's the starting point, right? Everyone here listening to the podcast can sit down and be like, all right, what are my 6 different pillars? Great. I've got some 6 different ones. A few are business, a few are personal, some are micro, some are macro, whatever. What's the next step from there, Rachel?
Absolutely. So this is where my strategy really comes into play, because I had heard of content pillars before, but I never understood how to utilize them. So I take content pillars and I break them down further into what I call subtopics. And I do about 10 to 15 subtopics per content pillar. Yeah. So it does take a little bit of time to set up, but then the point is, once it's set up, you are good to go to write content for a really long period of time.
Gotcha.
So the subtopics are what I would actually sit down to write a post about. So for example, if one of my content pillars is like, we'll just take like Facebook groups as an example. Okay.
I love it. Yeah.
That's a pretty big topic, right? So when I sit down to write a post about Facebook groups, there's still a lot of guesswork going into writing that post, because there are so many things I could talk about. So when I do my subtopics, my content pillar, again, is Facebook groups. My subtopics could be, for example, like starting a group, writing a group description, how to admin a group. And then when I sit down to write a piece of content, I can take my content pillar of Facebook groups, I can pick one subtopic, and I write a post exclusively on that piece of content.
Love it. Okay, so let me simplify that. So we've got our major, let's say, course creator, right? Let's say you got one course, right? Cool. Here's my course. Here's everything it teaches in that course. Let me break down 6 different pillars of what I want to cover there. That's already a good start. I feel if someone does 6 pillars, they're on the road to to being a bit more time efficient. Now with each pillar, we do 10 different mini topics. So
Yes.
Rachel used the Facebook group example. Let's go back and use a fitness example as well as something else. So let's say one of the things we have is let's use exercise is probably an easy one, but we might start there, right? It's like, all right, cool, exercises. There's about 1 million exercises you can do. Let me write down 10 exercises that I know are popular. All right, I'll just write them down there. So then I've got my 10 there. So when it comes to the start of the month, okay, last month I wrote about bicep curls. Okay, what's the next one on my list? It's tricep extensions. Great. Let me just go on here and do the post on tricep extensions. And maybe if it wasn't that one, maybe it was food. It's like, all right, cool. Maybe the pillars are. You can. So okay, I'm gonna ask a question here. And does it go deeper than that? Let's say you're a fitness person. Let's say the pillar is food. Do I then just say, all right, here are 10 different recipes that I can give people, or is recipe the sub thing, and then I go deeper as well? Any tips there, or?
Yeah, that's also a great question. I would not do 10 recipes. What I would do with the food one
Yep.
is I would break it down into, like, maybe you break it down into starches, proteins.
Yep.
Maybe you talk about different diets. So that could be one. So if you have, like the keto diet, or I don't know any other diets. Keto is the only one I've got, but
intermittent fasting, it could be,
Yeah, exactly. And you could break that down further.
And that could, and I guess the other way to look at that, if there's too many things, like maybe if we go, maybe food was a bad example for fitness. Maybe we should have said diets is one of our pillars, and then recipes is one of our pillars. Maybe
Yes.
we could have gone better, and not better, just that's another way to look at it, I guess. If it's a big thing like that, should probably be a pillar instead of a micro sort of thing. So,
absolutely.
Awesome. All right. Gotcha. So I'm with you. We've got our topic. We've got our pillar. We then break that down. What's the next step from there? What do we do once we've got our 10 different mini topics, our 60 different potential mini topics? What do we do from there?
Yeah, absolutely. So from there, it's really just sitting down and writing the content. So
Mm,
what I do is I batch my content per month.
love it.
So I will, at the beginning of every month or at the end of the previous month, you sit down and I figure out first, like, where do I need to show up? So what social media platforms will I be
Mm,
showing up on? And, include like your email list if you have that,
yeah.
and then whatever you need to create. And then from there, you decide, okay, how often do I need to show up on each platform? So
Mm,
that's how many posts do I need to create. So for example, on Instagram, if you're showing up 3 times per week, okay, you need 3 posts for every week. So you're
mm,
going to need 12 posts for Instagram for the
gotcha.
month. So we did the legwork of figuring out the content. Now we need to know how much we're writing and what platform we're creating it for. Because
Mm,
it might sound a little bit different. If you're writing an
mm,
email, that's going to be a different format than if you're writing an Instagram post.
gotcha. Awesome. Okay. Oh, sorry. No, you go. Keep going.
Okay. So then what you do after that is then I figure out like which do I want to create content for first. So for example, if you're in my Facebook group, you're going to get a little extra content. Like I show a little bit of
Mm,
extra love to the people in my Facebook group because that's important to me and that's my funnel. So you're going to get a little extra information if you're in my Facebook group than if you follow me on Instagram. So I always write my content for my Facebook group first, and I can just go, I pick a pillar and then I pick a subtopic and I write the piece of content on that. And then you can do it one of two ways. So if you wanted to write all of your posts for one social media platform,
mm,
and then if you could just mix them up for another platform. So if you're like, okay, I only want to write 12 posts for this month. So you write 12, you share them in your Facebook group, you schedule them, and then you take those 12 and you just mix them up and share them on Instagram on different days so that people are seeing different content. Or if you're feeling really ambitious, you can go and write 12 different posts for Instagram.
gotcha. Okay. And it makes sense to batch it in the one day as well, right? Because you get in that mood. It's like, right, I'm going to block out, Saturday morning or whatever it is, and you get in your writing mood. And after you've done one or two posts, okay, you're in the swing of things, that's easier and easier and easier. Is that why you batch it in one day like that?
Yes, it is. And sometimes, I'll schedule it and then I wake up and I'm like, I'm not
Yeah.
in a writing mood today. Like, sometimes you just
Yeah.
don't get that mood. So sometimes it can be a little bit more spontaneous with I wake up and, okay, well, I was planning on doing this today, but I'm feeling like writing. So I'm going to do the content. And I think it really does. It starts to flow. Like sometimes the
Mm,
first two are hard. You're kind of getting that
mm.
wheel moving and then you just flow into it. And it feels like the posts get faster as you go along.
Yes, love that. Okay, that all makes sense. Photos, Rachel. What do we do there? Do we batch the photos beforehand? Do we go and get a photo shoot? Do we just write it and find something we're feeling on the day? Any tips on the photo?
Absolutely. So I do brand photo shoots. I like to have on brand photos, but not necessary. If you wanted to just have a friend and take your phone out and go get some photos, that would absolutely be okay. I do batch my photos at the same time I write content. So I create all of my content, like for my Facebook group, I can schedule it in my Facebook group. So I just write it
Mm,
and then I share a photo. I tend to do photos of myself in my Facebook group more often. Instagram gets fun because you can design graphics and do like a lot of different things for that. So I plan out more time for Instagram because I create like carousels, which are really popular right now,
mm.
and creating those graphics. So I do it all at the same time. I'll write a post and then I design the graphic or I pick the corresponding photo at the same time.
So, question: where do you get those photos from? That you've already got these photos from photo shoots you've previously done. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And to get those photos, you'll either hire a photographer or get a friend or whatever and say, hey, we're taking photos for 2 hours on Saturday morning. Let me get a few different outfits. Let me get a few different locations. We just take a heap of photos and then I'll put them in a folder on Google Drive. Is that how that works there?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. So when I first started, I actually asked my brother and we like set aside a Saturday morning. I was like, hey, I'll give you $50. Like you get to take pictures of me. I changed clothes like in the back of my Honda Civic, like
Yep.
between
You got a Honda
shots.
Civic?
I
Me
do.
too. What
Oh
model?
my gosh. It's an LX.
I don't even know what that is, but mine's from
Oh,
1998. So you probably got a better one than me.
mine is from 2017, so a little bit newer.
Woo. Yeah. So
Yes.
okay, gotcha. All right, cool. So we do those photos there. Now, a question with that. do we just take random photos and hope that they'll somewhat fit in, or do you have any tips for taking the photos? I know a lot of people do the points. You go there and you see people photos of people pointing up and to the side, and when they do the editing, they're actually pointing to their course or their lead magnet, whatever it may be. Any tips there, or do we just go for it at the start and we get better as we go?
Yeah, great question. So I'm very type A, which means that I rarely just go for it. I always have a plan in mind. So first, I think the first step is really like picking out what you're going to wear, because I tried to pick out, outfits that match my brand. So like brand colors, kind of the style of my brand. And then from there, like I picked places that kind of match my brand. So my brand's a little more whimsical, very feminine. So there's a gazebo in one of my shots. There's like this cute coffee shop in the background. So I tried to pick places that fit my brand. I have not done a whole lot of like the pointing to specific places. I definitely know what you're talking about. I've seen that. That's not something I've really done. So I really just try to go for more photos where I'm like very open, very friendly, like smiling, looking at the camera, trying to show, if someone's reading a post, like they can see me, they know who I am, and I'm just very warm and inviting. That's what I focus on.
Gotcha. Awesome. And I think just some good general tips you mentioned there as well were just, the different outfits. I learned that one the hard way. I was like, yeah, I'll do a photo shoot. I didn't bring a change of clothes, and then I'm just wearing a white tee in every single photo of me on the internet. So I think at least bring a few. And if you can sort of match them with your brand, that's great. And then locations as well, there's always some good generic. We'll take a couple at the park, a couple at the beach. If you're in fitness, okay, couple at the gym, couple at the outdoor gym, So I think there's some good general things as well. And have a think beforehand, and it's like some of those things you can make them look so different, right? It's like one outfit in the beach versus a different outfit in the park. He's going to look like a completely different style, even though you might have just walked 5 minutes from the water to the grass, So, okay, cool. So we've got some good ideas with the photos as well. Any tips on our head or what I'm thinking here is any tips on their headline, or does that come back to, I'm going to say any tips on the headline?
Yeah. Do you mean the hook? Is that the same thing?
Yeah, the hook.
Okay.
So let's say, for example, we're like, great, I've got this, I've got my pillars, I've got my ideas. Cool. Let's use the Facebook group one, great. One of my pillars is Facebook group. One of my pillars is how to come up with a name, great. I've written this content. Do I need to have a catchy sort of headline there, or do I just post the content and see what happens?
Yeah, good question. I always say you need a good hook and you need a good call to action at the end.
Love it.
So what I tend to do, a lot of people struggle with writing hooks, and I'm not going to lie, like that was definitely a struggle for me back when I first started, because it is so important. So what I tended to do is I would actually write the post first. So I would just like slap a headline or a hook up there, and then I would write the post, and then I could pick out like what is the most important part of this post, or like what is the most like shocking part of this post, and that is what then I took as the headline. So a couple of just like key factors: don't make it super long. Do make it like a very related to your post, so we're not doing clickbait here. And
I
make
hate
it
those
super
clickbait ones. They write
right.
something and I'm like, oh, I want to read this, and then the next line is like, so you probably thought it was about this. Well, it's not about this. And I'm like, skip,
Right. And you don't finish reading the post, which then defeats the entire purpose of having a good hook. Yes, absolutely. So don't make it super long. Don't make it clickbait. Do make it super clear. So for example, like if I'm talking about Facebook groups, I might say like how my client Allie hit 4,000 members in 2 months. Like that's interesting. And it's super clear. Okay. She's going to talk about how her client Allie hit 4,000 members in 2 months. And maybe she'll give me some tips on like how I can do that. So super clear, to the point, not super long.
Love it. Okay. And call to action. Any tips there?
Yes, absolutely. So my number one tip is always include a call to action, even if it's not a promo post. So I think almost every single entrepreneur knows that if they're promoting something, there should be a call to action at the end of the post. But I read a lot of posts on social media where it's not a promo post and they didn't include a call to action. So I call that a soft call to action. So like a hard call to action is like, work with me, click the link in my bio, sign up for my program. But a soft call to action is one where you're just saying like, hey, drop a heart heart if you agree with this, or like tag a friend who needs to see this as well. So you're still encouraging people to engage. You're telling people what you want them to do, and you're driving the algorithm, but you're not telling them they have to buy your program.
Love it. So yeah, I'll summarize both because they were really good points there. So the headline, I think the best thing Rachel said is, write your post first and then have a look at that post and be like, all right, what's the most interesting thing there? Cool. Let me put it up at the top. Because sometimes and I think everyone, like whether you're writing an email, in saying that you can probably go both ways as well, right? Because what I do sometimes is if I see a headline or an email that gets me, I'm like, oh, that got me to open. Let me save that and then let me model it and change some words so I can use it with my niche there. So I think it can work both ways, actually. But Rachel gave a really good tip where if you don't know what headline to do the post first, have a look at that post. Great. What's the catchy headline there? That's easier than just trying to come up with a headline out of the blue. I think that's the message. It's hard just to come out with a headline out of the blue. It's easier to either
Yes.
get someone else's and model it, or write your post first and be like, all right, cool. What's the most interesting thing there? And yeah, call to action. Obviously, we all know, if you're going to buy something, you need to have a call to action. But even then, you see some ads that don't necessarily have that, But
Yeah,
most people
absolutely.
listening to this podcast are smart entrepreneurs, so they know that they'll put a call to action there. But yeah, even like any sort of posts, a couple I like to do is just like, hey, here's my tip on things. What are your thoughts? What do you think on this? Everyone loves giving their thoughts and opinions on social media. So and it's just it may sound like a subtle difference, but it's huge. Like the difference between just me doing a post and stating my opinion, but me doing a post and then just adding a sentence at the end of it saying, hey, what are your thoughts? I'll get 20, 30, 40 more comments than if I didn't do that one thing there. So that helps. And I think it helps in a few different ways. Firstly, it's going to help your algorithm, right? So like if you just made a post and 20 people commented on it, hey, when you do that next post, when you're trying to sell something, those 20 people are probably going to see that post again because that, or the sales post, because they previously engaged, and then also if you've got those 20 people that commented on your post, hey, now Facebook might show it to another 20 people that wouldn't otherwise have seen it, that are now in your funnel, and they click the link and join your Facebook group, yada yada yada. So that's where I think that's important there. So
Absolutely. And you made a really good point. If I could just touch on that as well. People do love to give their opinion. So if you're stuck on a CTA, literally just ask people what they think. Like you'll get so many more comments.
Yes, that one. And the other one I like is if I can do like a controversial one and then I'll
Oh,
say
yeah.
agree or disagree,
Yes.
like
Oh, that's such a good one.
that's one of my favorites too. Awesome. Well, hey, Rachel, there's a couple questions I always like to finish off my podcast with. The first one is around mentors. Now, you're obviously a mentor out there for plenty of women, plenty of people that want to grow their online business, want to come up with more content, do it in a more time efficient way. I'm curious to hear who your mentors have been. If you could answer it in a few different ways. Firstly, if you could give us a book that you recommend, ideally will help an online course creator, but anything. It doesn't have to be about creating the course. It can be about their mindset or marketing, sales, content, whatever it may be. A book recommendation. Someone you follow on social media that you haven't paid. So you follow them, watch their YouTube videos, follow them on Instagram, but you haven't bought their course. And then someone that you've purchased their course or you've hired them to be your coach, and that was the best financial decision you've made. So what can you tell us? Mentors, book, unpaid, and paid.
Okay, well, I love the way you define that. So, book, I would definitely say Get Rich, Lucky Bitch by Denise Stuffelford.
Ooh.
Yeah. Oh, I love her writing style. It's a little off the wall to me. Like she's just a very real and provides a ton of great tips. So, I highly recommend that book. Mentor that I follow on social media that I haven't paid. I don't actually know her name, but I follow her on Instagram and her handle is at Your Coach Sam. She started out as a VA and then turned into a business coach for new and aspiring VAs. And her content is amazing. Like she's so real on Instagram. She shares so many great tips. And she likes to say that she kind of pulls down the blinds and really shows people what it is to be an entrepreneur. So she shares like when she struggles, and she shares like where her money goes and like that kind of thing. So she's very open and honest, which I love about her. And then mentor that I have paid, would have to be Haley Rogers. Her Instagram handle is at her simplified life. And she's just been amazing. So not focused on like course creation, but just focused on helping me to really grow my audience, to nurture my audience, to build that engagement. And we're just very similar in the fact that we're both like very type A, very organized in our business. And I love that she's been able to help me kind of really get outside of my comfort zone and do things that I might not do if I was just left to my own devices.
Awesome. Love it. Okay. So, Rachel, I'm sure there's a heap of people listening this, watching this. They're going to be like, okay, this Rachel woman is cool. I want to find more about her. I want to do her course. Where do we go? Where's the best place to find you online?
Absolutely. So the best place would definitely be Facebook. So it's Rachel Monnin, and that's Monnin. I do have a group, like you mentioned at the beginning, and I know you're going to drop the link to that. So I would love if you come and join my group. I share a ton of great tips in there, and it's a great community.
Awesome. I will. I'll put all of these links all over the show notes. I'll get my virtual assistant to double check them with you, Rachel. And the course. If we want to buy the course, if we're like, okay, this system works, I want to implement this system, and get my 30 days of content in 30 minutes. Where do we buy your course, Rachel?
Absolutely. So you can go to my website. It's Rachel dash like the minus sign Monnin.com. So Rachel Monnin.com, and you can definitely find the link to the course on there.
Awesome. Well, Rachel, that's pretty much all I wanted to cover for today. Is there anything I should have asked you, but I forgot to, or is there anything you want to finish us off with?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think really, the only thing I would like to finish off with is that I do have a course that I offer, and it was something that I put a ton of time and effort into creating. And if you're considering a course, I do highly recommend it. It was a lot of fun to create, and it's been a really great addition to my business model. Something that, I want you to know is that the first time I actually launched my courses, it completely flopped, and I did not sell a single one, but I came back stronger. I relaunched it again, and it did really well the second time. So if you're considering launching a course, or if you are maybe launched a course and it didn't do well, I encourage you to just tweak a few things, try again. The first time doesn't define you. So get back up, and if I can do it again, you can do it again.
I love it. And this is probably a prime example here as well, where it's like, it might take you a few goes, but once you've got something that can sell okay, and if you can get it on evergreen, it's just like, it's the closest thing to passive income. Like someone could be like Rachel's done this podcast with me now. It's the 23rd of March, Australian time anyway. I don't know what it is in Ohio, probably 2 or 3 days beforehand. So 23rd of March, like someone might be listening to this in 2 months' time. Oh, this course sounds cool. Let me go and click on the show notes. Oh, yeah, it's on special or whatever. Let me buy this course here. Bang. Rachel's made a sale. She's helped someone doing absolutely nothing. Well, not absolutely nothing, but you know what I mean, right? And then, in a couple months' time again, someone else might listen to it, go on there, yada, yada, yada. It's just a very leveraged way to help your income. Even if it's not your full thing, it doesn't hurt just you do a podcast. Okay, even if your books are full with your one-on-one stuff or your work, it's not a bad thing to make a few sales on the side from doing a podcast.
Absolutely. 100%.
Awesome. All right, Rachel, thank you very much for your time.
Oh, thank you. This was so much fun.